The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob Emrani.
Accident or injury, call Jacob Emrani. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason. Sue Kolinsky is off for this show. She will be back. By the way, really big show coming up next with Anthony Ramos, who is the star of Transformers, Rise of the Beasts. And he, of course, was in The Heights. That's coming up for you next week. We will have that show with me and Sue together. In the meantime, if you listen to this podcast, if you listen to me on the radio, you know that I love the Fast and the Furious movies. I am a huge fan. I love Vin Diesel as Dom. I love It's All About the Family, and I love all the stuff that he talks about. His metaphors of life that relate to racing. Now, here's the weird thing. I don't know virtually anything about cars. I'm not a car guy. Like, I was in the Toyota Celebrity Grand Prix a few years back, where I finished, by the way, 14th. I did not finish last. I finished 14th, in front of Omar Epps and Willie Gault, which I'm very proud of. They both crashed, but I did finish, if you looked at the standings, in front of them. But I know nothing about cars. I didn't even know how to drive stick at that point. So I had to learn that before I actually got into the race. So not a car guy, don't understand what's going on. What I do love is the total and complete spectacularness of it. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think I'm spoiling anything, but some of that stuff, not realistic. Like there's a huge absurdity with the Fast and the Furious movies that, to me, makes them so much fun to watch. So I am a really big fan, and I'm excited for my guest today, who is the first streetball freestyle basketball player to sign an endorsement deal with Nike before becoming an actor. He has appeared in movies like The Brave One, 21 Jump Street, and Fast 5. He is now back in the Fast and Furious family for Fast 10. Luis Da Silva joins me. Luis, thanks a lot for doing this, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. I'm a huge fan of yours. So absolutely. Once this came in and landed on my publicist's desk, I was like, I have to be a part of it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Thanks a lot for that.
Huge fan, man. Huge fan.
Thank you. Thank you. So Fast X, which I saw last weekend, worldwide box office hit. You were in Fast 5, which was huge. What's it like when you wake up one day and you're in the biggest movie in the world?
You know, it's surreal. You know, I mean, as actors and performers, we, you know, as you know, the business, there's ups and downs. It's not all blue skies and unicorns. And, you know, you put your best foot forward and sometimes some get, you know, more traction than others. But every once so often, some people get lucky and they land these franchise blockbusters. So when it first landed, you know, it brought up in 2011 when I was a part of Fast 5, they were looking for a Portuguese-speaking actor. And, you know, at that time, we're talking, you know, 12, 13 years ago, as much as the Brazilian and Portuguese population, from Cristiano Ronaldo, a lot of these UFC fighters, has been like more world recognized. But I got lucky and read for it. Casting liked me, and it was one of the few auditions that it wasn't, you know, one of the grueling processes, and they booked me on camera.
Wow.
Yeah, they flew me. My scene took place in Atlanta, Georgia, but they shot a couple of days in the favelas in Brazil. And, you know, after 24 hours, camera lenses got missing, and they just shipped production to Puerto Rico. So most of the film was done in Puerto Rico, and then the pickups and the tuner scene which was the scene I was a part of, is when, you know, all the driving, it brings it back to the essence of where it started, took place in Atlanta. And, you know, understand the franchise and the people around and family and friends that are huge enthusiasts of these cars, and the franchise are like, there's no way they're not going to bring you back. They bring everybody back. And I'm like, man, if they ever do, they do. And Sure enough, I think April of last year, I get a call saying, Justin Lin was writing it. And I was like, well, Justin Lin's a director that came back for Fast Five. I was like, there's always hope, right? So I'm sitting back in my backyard and I get an email, and it's one of the most exciting emails saying, they're going to bring your character back. So right away, I knew there was some tie to Brazil without giving the movie away.
Sure.
And the cherry on the top was we're shooting in London, so it was fun They flew me out to London for 3 months, and on my days off, I get to see Abbey Road and got to see all the fun things. And, the London's code, the UK culture kind of we derived from there. So the language is the same. Streets are named the same. Towns are the same. Cost of drinks is a little bit more, but that's another story. But it was a blessing, man. I'm just so happy to be a part of it again. And, through my DMs and all my messages and people that are responding, everybody loves the Diogo character so much. So I'm so thankful. And, who knows? I'm hearing from when we wrapped it in the Coliseum in Rome at the premiere that this is going to be a trilogy now. So this is new news from us all from Universal. So very, very thankful, extremely thankful.
So I was watching the movie, and I think Dante, who's played by Jason Momoa, is like one of the best Fast and Furious villains that they've had. He reminds me of sort of this kind of Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight kind of thing, where he just wants to see the world burn, right?
Yeah, that's a very, you described him very well. I think, he created this Dante and made it a very flamboyant type of character, but yet dark. And I just feel like it's never been seen before. Somebody that dresses like Aladdin, but it's malicious, but in an articulate, very fun going way. And it was just brilliant. I mean, I remember, flying out there on our days off, you can't post until the movie comes out, but I'm calling my wife like, honey, this guy is just, Jason Momoa is a star. He's a star. And I'm just, again, all my scenes were with him and Vin. So again, it couldn't get any better. I mean, it's just like, work side by side of some of the greats. Everybody keeps asking me, he's really big in person. Yeah, I don't know what they feed these kids in Hawaii, but between him and Dwayne Johnson, I mean, these guys are monsters.
So by the time this podcast comes out, I believe everyone will have seen the movie. I'm just going to go on that assumption. So I want to talk about the sequence that you're in, and if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want to know, I hate to say this, but turn the podcast off because I want to get into it. So your character Diogo, you see Dom and Dante in Rio, and you get involved in this street race. So I got questions. Yeah. So do you actually do the driving in this race?
See, I get that question probably 15 times a day. God, I hate answering this question because the answer is no. And here's the reason why. I guess we're able to throttle and go, 20 feet, but our racing, no. There's just so much liability with actors. So you got to have the stunt team. I mean, God forbid something happens. Who's doing the dialogue? Usually films are shot from the end of the film forward. So all the exciting, fun stuff are usually getting out of, we try to get that out of the way as quickly as possible and then get into all the dialogue. So, you're leaving yourself room for, accidents happen. So the answer is no, but they do a very good job putting tattoos on these F1 drivers that were in the UK that were doing all the stunts. But yeah, man, it's funny enough. I'm actually right after we get this podcast, depending on when this airs, but I'm going to the Indy 500. So
nice.
A lot of these drivers expect me to know how to drive, but fun fact for you, Steve, I'm an actor, so I could barely friggin' drive stick shift, but it's I think I do a damn good job at Diogo. So
yeah, you absolutely do. I completely buy. I actually did a celebrity race a couple of years ago at the Toyota Grand Prix, and when we went into training, I realized I never even thought about it. I never drove stick shift, so I get into this race, and I'm like, the very first thing I have to learn is to drive stick. And let me tell you, I was an absolute disaster out there. Just never learned to drive stick.
Yeah, no, the adrenaline though, I know responding to the vehicle, I know there's an attachment, but I grew up in, New Jersey outside of New York City. Most of my friends are in their 40s, 50s, don't even have a car in New York City. So
yeah, that's right.
Alone, so it's it's not a necessity. Having a car, gosh forbid, stick shift in traffic on the Holland at 5 o'clock. It's a nightmare. So, we always want automatic, but, fancy enough, we get the Tiptronic cars now. But, I'm going to learn. I think I told my mom, she's like, honey, I could get you in a parking lot and then I can teach you how to drive on my van. And I'm saying to myself, man, like, can you imagine just Diogo out there in the parking lot of Walmart and his mom's teaching him how to drive? It's epic. I was like, if I ever do that, I think that's content I need to shoot.
Oh, that is absolutely hashtag content. No question. So there is a great shot at the start of the race that you're in where the camera like goes into each car and shows the 4 drivers, and then the other driver is Isabel, and it kind of pulls through. How did they make that shot?
Good, yeah, very good question. So, the director Louis did a phenomenal job. I mean, dating back to the Transporter. I mean, a lot of his shot sequences are like he's as action as it comes. So what they did was they ran like a track, like a dolly track through the inside of every interior of the car.
Really?
And the lens shot right here on me. They zoomed out and then they pushed camera back and still kept it in focus and went from sequence to sequence on every character. And right when they did that, I was like, I haven't seen that done in the film, but I was like, this is a trailer moment. So I turned to Vin, I was saying to him, I was like, you're on this. This is a trailer moment. And I was like, I made the first trailer. So the second one, I mean, you keep it up, Vin, you're going to get a kiss in the mouth. And we chuckled about it. But it was, and funny enough, that was the trailer that made the Super Bowl. That was one of the most iconic, popular trailers in February leading into this film. So again, I got lucky again. Hell, Steve, if we take this luck and play some roulette, take it to the casino, I got a hot hand.
Yeah, it's such a cool shot. And then how do you feel about Dom saving Isabel instead of Diogo?
Sex sells, right? She's a beautiful woman. I mean, but we don't know if I die. We don't know what happens. And
that's true. That's true.
History is proven to tell. Well, I was so damn ahead of them in the race. He couldn't catch me anyway. That was mine. And that was my payback because in Fast 5, Paul Walker took my car. So, Brian O'Connor, God rest his soul, Paul. But, I've been waiting for this moment on my, 911 GT3 RS 997. So I was out. They couldn't catch me. Dante, yes, he cheated. But, no one actually really ever dies. I mean, we look back, historically shown, we look at some of the other characters that jumped off planes and, Gail, there's no way she came back from that. And at the end, she's like, so there's still a world. And I think my character being such a fan favorite in these tuner scenes and pretty much representing more like, I guess I would like to say, I mean, is it safe to say South America? Because the character, so, I mean, you're talking about a whole continent you're kind of responsible for. And, they're rooting for Diogo, and if they root for Diogo, Universal pays attention. So I'm optimistic, Steve. I'll be
excellent.
back.
I'm sure people survive in Fast and Furious. People
and David,
do survive.
I got 2 kids, so I need to be back.
There you go. So what's it like on the set with Vin Diesel? Is he, I mean, he's obviously the driving force behind the Fast and Furious movies. He's a larger than life guy. At least his persona is certainly larger than life. And he talks about family a lot. And you guys come back and keep making these movies. Are the actors in the Fast movies like one big family the way they are in the movie?
Yeah, I think it resonates on camera and off camera. I think the culture he establishes is exactly what it is. And I think, from a method perspective as a performer, you have to believe, right? And I think, he really takes on, which rightfully so he should. I mean, it's one of the biggest franchises of all time. It's 25 years. It hasn't been a comic book. And it's getting probably arguably the most praise from every single continent. It's a family. I mean, what else? It's a culture. He established a culture. So I think, later on in his career, and as we got into the 7, 8, 9, more so 10, closing out this chapter, and now it's going to be a trilogy, which I still think it's up in the air, maybe 2 or 3. That's still contingent on how they do Memorial Day weekend, which the viewers will probably see. But again, numbers are being monitored. I think it really comes down to, his understanding that everybody's the driving force and is one big family. And I think that's what's going to bring people to the theaters, right? When everybody knows there's an audience connection and you could kind of gravitate and feel like you're a part of, That means something. And as much as we are such an AI digital world, the fan activation that they've really promoted on this, from GIFs to emojis to games, people want that response. And yes, AI does all the work these days, and it's going to get worse. But you know what? It's going to get back down to the essence of emotion and what makes me feel connected. And that's why I think I really do a fairly decent job in really trying to respond to, as much as I can to like DMs that come in, like, because this is what it's about. This is what it's about. I don't want to be the traditional Hollywood disconnected from your audience, because we are such in a social media driven day, and it's so close to you. And if it's not close, it becomes artificial.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It's true.
But
you think is social media good or bad for us?
My dad's old school, right? 6 years old, but I'm first generation here, comes from Portugal. And he always said, son, too much of anything's no good. And I guess for as cheesy as that answer might sound, it's freaking true, right? In moderation. I mean, I have an 8-year-old daughter. My son's 5 months, but my daughter doesn't engage in any social platforms because I know school and friends are going to rush her to grow. So if I can keep her as contained and naive as I possibly can, I feel like, maybe for my own selfish reasons as a father, but, I think in moderation. I think when it starts to consume you, I think when people start to really get engulfed over their likes and how many responses they get, I think that just, it takes the fun out of being connected.
Yes, I completely agree.
I really wish they would disconnect like the whole like and following thing.
Especially for kids, if kids...
It becomes a very capitalistic social approach.
Yes. And I think kids in high school, and I don't know when you're going to let your daughter on social media, but, they measure the number of likes. They measure their value as a person based on the number of likes, which I think is really bad for kids.
And Steve, to that point, Hollywood does the same darn thing. I mean, they base celebrity and box office numbers based on impressions and who you are on social, which old Hollywood, that wasn't even a thing.
Yeah.
So again, it's learning how to adapt to Gen Z. It's learning how to adapt to today's society, but still tastefully in a casual, classy way. You could be cool, tattooed, but still have a broad perspective on life in whole.
Yes.
And sometimes the younger generation, all they see is, well, Kim K does this, and I say Kim K. I'm a huge fan of the Kardashians. I feel like people bring them up and always in a negative light, but I say that because when you think of the apex of reality celebrity and beauty, and you think of their family. So I use that as only purely for reference, and I got to be very clear because now it's like, okay, I'll be in TMZ saying I don't like the Kardashians, but that the point I'm trying to make is I try to find a pinnacle apex for every single person and use that as a reference. But kids, I just listen, we were all children at once upon a time ago. I was lucky enough to watch Michael Jordan through a tube TV, and we didn't have social media, so I didn't have as much distractions. And before Hollywood, I was pretty good at playing basketball and dribbling but if it wasn't for social media not being available at that point in time, maybe I would have been. I wouldn't be putting that much time and effort in certain things. Right. So again, it comes back to a balance. I think computers and social media is great for kids to understand how to activate and use these platforms. But as you go around the neighborhood, you barely see kids playing outside. Again, I think there should be a balance. I think a balance is cool. And they are trying to monitor it. I think kids under a certain age, I think they're trying to put like a 2-hour window on these platforms. I know Montana already discontinued the services for TikTok. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't feel, if there's influencers that it's hurting financially, well, God bless you. I mean, maybe set up shop in a different place. I mean, it's, so it's a different world. And I got to tell you, these influencers are making hand over foot, and God bless them.
Yeah, they are. Bless them. And good for them. And good for them. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So you mentioned basketball. I went back and watched a bunch of your videos before doing this.
A time ago, Steve.
Oh, man, I'm telling you. When you were at your peak, your handle is as good as anybody I've ever seen. I mean, your handle was unbelievable.
dribbling a basketball is like riding a bike. So it's
Yeah.
like, I don't think the handle is the problem is that, you reach 40 years old and then the next day you got the aches and pains that you never know even existed. So
Yeah.
welcome to the 40s. But yes, I think I put a lot of time and effort in trying to develop, dribbling sequences that hasn't been done, trying to stay outside the box and creative. And, I went to private school and, Kyrie Irving was in St. Patrick's. So I was, gone and graduated, but, they grew up watching all the N1 mixtapes, the Nike freestyle. So all the handles in the NBA were kind of derived and inspired by. And some of the stuff that they're doing in all-star games, we've done in 2001 that's been displayed on these campaigns and the spoof on Scary Movie, etc. So yeah, that's like a cigar talk. We sit back and be like, man, if there was social media back in 01, I would be like Justin Bieber.
You would, I was just thinking that if there was social media, man, you would be lighting it up.
The white kid at 18 years old that's dribbling through a keyhole. I mean, I could see it now. I was like, honey, we missed the yacht days, but it's a good rocking chair story.
Sure. Now, did you ever play competitively?
I did overseas a little bit. I worked out with the Harlem Globetrotters the year that they were trying to turn it in competitive and got a full ride contract at the Houston Rockets training camp. But I was so embedded in commercial and television, Screen Actors Guild, and understanding the business that I think I've got my high in entertaining in front of a camera, and that satisfaction was enough for me because I felt like I was appealing to a broader audience because I've been exposed to so many things at a tender age that it was like, wow, like by me doing this in front of a camera for, let's say a Mountain Dew commercial that, directed by Spike Lee or one of these other, I did like, a dozen. I was the youngest athlete to sign with Nike at 18. So I did a dozen commercials and the excitement in front of the camera, I was like, man, this is, maybe I should get into film. Maybe this is my calling. And I didn't take theater in high school. I thought I was going to be in the NBA. I was a young inner city kid chasing the basketball dream, like millions of others. But it all worked out, and it's good to talk about it now because it's just like, man, 20 years, a lot of things change.
Yeah. Well, when you signed with Nike, it was a gigantic deal because it was, culturally, street ball, freestyle, all this stuff. What was that like? And what was the cultural significance of it?
The campaign, what inspired freestyle and Paul Hunter to make this campaign, that's showing my age. That was the introduction of NikeBasketball.com. So the domain launch was for freestyle.
Wow.
And so we're like, wow, in only 20 years, URLs, like, wow, but it just seems like a lifetime that we had websites and pages, but it's only been 20 years since Nike Basketball. So that was the introduction of the URL NikeBasketball.com. And then they introduced a campaign that they wanted to be gritty, rough, and not really advertise the swoosh, but the culture. So, at 18 years old, your mindset, make sure I'm doing the best stuff because I have a small window. And my goal is to just be like, man, if I could just get 5 seconds on this commercial, I could brag about it on the street ball course forever. And I feel like that's my stripe in the New York City street ball. I'll be like, he's that guy from such and such. Long and behold, Nike ended up giving me my own 30-second spot.
Yeah.
Phones kept ringing. I had Calvin Klein offers. I had scripts that now I look back, the stuff I turned down from my idiotic brain. Remember, I didn't have a manager. I didn't have an agent. I am a kid living in my mom and dad's house. My dad drives a truck. My mom works a regular job, and their son's on the cover of Time magazine, front page of the Wall Street Journal. Every time out is this commercial. I had the big Madison billboard in New York, Times Square. Every time you turn around, it was a bill. And I was just like the first thing that ever picked me up was a limousine to take me to a Ritz-Carlton. That was my first. So I didn't know what the heck was going on. It just happened so fast.
Yeah.
So I started to absorb it after years and be like, man, like, wait a minute. Now I know what hotels are like. Wow. The first one was Shanghai's Ritz-Carlton, and we're on the same floor with Michael Jackson. And man, this is really like, it happened fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So is that where you decided, okay, I want more of this. I'm going to move into acting. Is that sort of where you got the bug?
Steve, I like to say that because it sounds good for podcasts, but I'm not going to sell you a lie.
Okay.
So in 2003, and not that I had any ego. I really think I do a very good job, not because I wasn't raised that way. I was raised very unfortunate, and all this is a blessing. So, but knowing what I've done with Nike, and I'm saying to myself, okay, guys, creatively, what's the next campaign? I have this idea. And they did this awesome $3 million shoot in Beaverton that has never been released. I have raw footage. Amazing spot. 3D hard. I mean, it is. They spent $3 million and it was just my commercial. I was like, this is going to be the one. All of a sudden, it got shelved. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah, we have a meeting and there's this kid coming out from Ohio. Ohio with 2 first names, LeBron James. I'm the cover of who's this LeBron James? Well, he's a high school player. Lo and behold, Steve, damn it if they didn't make the right decision.
Oh, yeah.
So LeBron James came around in 2003, and then it kind of became more, because remember, the NBA was kind of on a bad, it wasn't looking good.
Yeah, it was on a dip, yeah.
After Jordan, I mean, Kobe was coming, but it was still like the ratings weren't the same. Everybody was turning to street ball. I had my hype, and then all of a sudden they, resurrected from the LeBron. And I'd like to tell that story because I always remember saying, like, man, LeBron James, like, but I got a chance to work with LeBron on his first commercial.
Wow.
With Bernie Mac, God rest his soul. And then after that, LeBron is exactly what they anticipated LeBron to be, and all due respect. But yeah, I just figured after that, am I going to try to? I always had a good understanding to be like, I don't want to chase the rabbit and be like, that, because then it just looks bad for your legacy and whatever legacy there may be. But in my mindset, it's just like, it looks bad when you're chasing it. Be happy for what you got and pivot. And damn it, if pivoting to acting wasn't as, talk about humbling. You're talking about reading sides in a fold-out chair. No one cares how good you are in basketball. Yeah. And it happened year after year after year until 2007 gave me a break with a brave one named Jodie Foster, gave me my first one. And I played the lead villain, #1 in the box office. And this is during Robert Downey's transition when he was going to rehab. Suzanne Downey was producing it. There were talks about him being Iron Man. This is when Terrence Howard was doing it. Terrence Howard's having conversations with me. They're not paying me enough. Handed it off to Robert Downey, and he never looked back. So there is luck in this industry. I don't know if I got lucky with Fast and Furious, but people ask me, what I got to tell you, Stephen, and this is not, and because you lead an awesome podcast, but there is, and I wish there was, there isn't no cheat code in Hollywood.
No,
there isn't. So it's just like, you could be as good as you. It's just like, there's so many dynamics, scripts, agencies, packaging. And if not, you have to be in the right place at the right time. And again, I got lucky with Fast 10. They're chasing to $1 billion box office. And I know one thing, I learned so much in 12 years since Fast 5. So my ability and knowledge that I know I didn't have the opportunity to capitalize 12 years ago, I'm 12 years wiser. Yeah. So
you mentioned cheat code. Even for example, what I do, I get kids saying, well, how do I get to, make it all the way to ESPN and all that stuff? And I'm like, I don't even know what to say. It was like, what do they call that when the ball roll, a Rube Goldberg thing where the ball rolls and knocks over the dominoes and all. I have no clue exactly how to describe how you. And
if I had to, like, if my daughter asks me the question, just like you, and I'm a fan of your work, I think what resonates on camera or in person, your eyes don't lie, right? And what I mean by that is when it's organic, people could feel it.
Yeah.
And that's my testament to what I mentioned before about our society changing now with AI. And that's all great. I mean, you could write a synopsis in 10 minutes, but the goal is to still keep it authentic in a way where people can feel, and you can't beat a pulse. Yeah. And once you can reach, and I'm grateful enough that my character now, Diogo, was a little bit better in Fast 10. So it shows the empathetic liveliness of friendship that Dom came to me for help and he trusted me. And now there's a race and all of a sudden he had a choice. And I could see why he made it Isabella. She was closer. I was too far up. But, you know, he gave me a look. And if there is a chance where Diogo got out of that safely, I bet your bottom dollar I'm going to team up with The Rock and we're going to get revenge on Dante.
There you go. There you go. So let's talk a little hoops. I'm sure you still follow the game, I would imagine, really close, right?
Oh my God, that's all I watch.
Now you grew up back east, so are you a Knicks fan, a Nets fan? How's that work?
You know, I grew up in the 90s, a Jordan fan. So I was during the Jordan era. But after Jordan left, I felt so bad for my damn Knicks that I gravitated to. I'm not a Brooklyn Nets fan. I rock with the Knicks. But I also, like, past 20 years, I've been a Spurs fan because I'm a huge fan of Popovich.
Yeah.
And damn it, we got the first pick. So
I know. How about that? Victor Wembanyama.
We need it. And I really hope we get another 2-3 years out of Pop. I know he just looks like he's tired.
He's still snapping at reporters. He seems, you know.
I love him, but that'll be so great for us. But I like where basketball is going, where the NBA is, you know. If I had to take one thing away, I think social media, Instagram, Twitter, more importantly than Instagram. But I feel like the voices of players are becoming too diplomatic, and it's affecting their on-court experience. I feel like, you know, Jordan never really yes, there wasn't social media, but like we'd like to know that basketball players just like kind of play basketball. And I don't mind being, you know, like LeBron does a great job being an advocate in so many things. But at some point, it's just like, when is enough? Because we kind of go to sports to disconnect from reality. I know I do. You know, athletes go to watch movies. I make movies, but then I go to athletes to just because I still feel in my heart I can get a 10-day contract.
Yes.
So it makes me feel relieved. So then when it gets too complicated and politics get involved and social media about who's waving what pistols, and it's just like, come on, guys. Like, I just want to know you for being on the court. And, you know, and that's where it becomes too much of anything's no good.
Well, that must be part of why you like San Antonio, because San Antonio Spurs guys aren't really involved in all that because Popovich doesn't really like his guys to be involved in it.
Like the New York Yankees do. It's structure and you're building a culture.
Yeah.
No mustache, no go. If you don't like it, we'll ship you.
Yep. So, who do you like to watch? What players? We were talking about your handle when you were at your apex in basketball. I think Kyrie might be the guy that is that guy. What players do you follow
currently?
Yeah,
Kyrie for the obvious reasons. James Harden when he's James Harden.
Yeah, right.
Not partying James Harden. Of course, LeBron. I mean, how do you not like LeBron? But I got to tell you, I wasn't a Joker fan, and I've been watching Joker, and yes, I get why. He does things so everything is effortless, right? I love Luka. I love Luka. Stephen Curry for the obvious. I see Michael Jordan. To me, there would never be a Michael Jordan. I think Kobe was the closest.
Yes.
And the reason why Kobe literally mimicked Michael and did a fairly good job. God rest his soul. LeBron is not Kobe, is not Jordan, but is a great player and in his own right. But the gracefulness is what for my own, and this is only personally speaking, I think that's what categorizes GOATs to me. It's gracefulness and ease to get to point A to point B. I don't think LeBron does it with ease.
Right.
But I do like, I think next to Jordan being the greatest to ever play, I think what Stephen Curry's done for the game of basketball is parallel to Michael with shooting threes and his ability to, I mean, his handle has gotten really good.
Very
it
good.
Wasn't like that 7-8 years ago, but now he's exceptional. But for what he has done for the three ball, it's never been seen before. Like, we've never seen a 6'6" guard do this in the air gracefully. So I think it's Jordan, Kobe, Stephen Curry and LeBron right there, but Stephen Curry has to be in that top three. There's no way.
Yeah, no, he's reinvented the game in a lot of ways. And now so many kids want to grow up to be Steph Curry, and you don't have to be 6'8" to do it. It's like open the door to kids who aren't really tall.
Now, if you ask me who do I think is the best ball player to ever dribble in the NBA court, because I never played in the NBA because I would still be stand by him, I would have to say for what he's done and the mindset to be so creative, there's nothing you can watch and learn. It had to be Pistol Pete.
Oh, so Pistol Pete. My dad's favorite player of all time. I
grew up in Elizabeth, New Jersey, studying all his tapes before I went. So I learned Pistol Pete. But after that, I got to say that Jason Williams' white chocolate was a problem.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because when you're dribbling, there's a different type of cockiness that comes to it and flair. And if you don't got that charisma and know how to create, there's a fear he had.
Sure.
And the things he was doing on the basketball court was extremely flashy but impressive, and he did a really damn good job doing it. But then there's tons. There's Rod Strickland did a great job. Mookie Blaylock, of Nick Van Exel. I mean, I could go back. God Shamgod, who played a small time in the NBA, was phenomenal with dribbling, but really didn't get the exposure he needed. So I think for the superstar's perspective, what Kyrie's doing and having to handle, I think he's the apex just because he is also the elite tier of superstars. So you kind of have to keep it in tandem. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, listen, this has been great, man. I'm a huge fan.
We gotta do this again.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it again. We'll just talk basketball next time, man.
Call me anytime, please.
All right. Fast 10 is in theaters. It is worldwide, racking up huge numbers. Congratulations, man. And Luis, thanks a lot for doing this, man.
Thank you. I got one question for you.
Yes.
What do you got in the finals?
Denver. I watched them beat the Lakers. Are you talking about Boston or Miami?
I just want to. Yeah, I think Miami's going to win. I can't see Boston win 3 games.
I completely agree. I think Denver's going to win. I slept on them completely all year long. I said, you know what? They're the least intimidating number 1 seed I can remember. And then I got to see him versus the Lakers, and Jokic is just, he doesn't look like he should be able to do what he does. He's kind of a loaf out there, but his footwork is unbelievable. His passing ability, his IQ. Yeah.
Shooting amazing. The ball over his head and you don't miss.
Yeah. No, he's crazy.
One player I did sleep on, but he's done it 2 years in a row. And I can't sleep. Jimmy Butler is, I would have never, because I would have not, I felt like it was a fluke last year. They got to but where they're going now, the kid's tough, but yeah, it's hard after they kind of really manhandled the Lakers and LeBron didn't have an answer. I think it's probably going to be Denver. Yeah.
I think they're just the most balanced team. Miami's missing some guys. Tyler Hero isn't playing. Although I hear he may be back for the finals. Tyler Hero may be back, which will make a difference.
7 game. I hope it's game 7 because after that we got no more NBA.
Exactly. Stretch it out for as long as we can.
Please, I need it.
Hey, Luis, thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
And there you have it. There is Luis Da Silva. Great guy. Love that he knows the show with me in Ireland. That's very cool. He knows basketball, obviously. Very cool. And the movie is so much fun. If you haven't seen it, go see it. Most of the world has seen it now. I think it's done $500 million worldwide. But if you haven't seen it, go check out Fast 10. Hey, don't forget, we are now on YouTube. You can watch usually me and Sue on YouTube. Today it's just me solo. But you go to youtube.com and search Culture Pop Podcast, and we will pop right up for you. Also, of course, on Spotify, on Apple. Listen to us on the podcast. Watch us on YouTube. Feel free to give us a rating or a review on any of those. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That would be appreciated too. Reminder, our next show, Anthony Ramos, really excited about, the star of Transformers and the star of In the Heights. He also was in the original Broadway cast of Hamilton. So really cool conversation. That's on our next show. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate you being here for the Culture Pop Podcast.